Every day, millions of people sit in traffic, complain about traffic, and check maps to avoid traffic. It's such a normal part of life that we rarely stop and think about the word itself. But have you ever wondered why crowded roads are called traffic in the first place? The word doesn't sound like it has anything to do with cars, highways, or stoplights. And that's because its meaning is much older than automobiles, buses, or even paved roads. Today we're diving into the story behind the word. Why is it called traffic? The answer takes us back hundreds of years, through trade routes, marketplaces, and languages that slowly shape the English we use today. Let's dive in, right here, on History of Simple Things. Long before cars existed, the word traffic referred to trade or commerce. When English speakers began using the word in the early 1500s, it meant the exchange of goods, buying, selling, or transporting merchandise from one place to another. Merchants who moved goods between cities or across seas were said to be engaged in traffic, and the word could refer both to the activity and the goods themselves. Over time, the term expanded to include the movement of passengers and cargo by ships or caravans, not just the act of trading itself. This older meaning still survives today in phrases like drug trafficking or human trafficking, which still carry the original sense of trade or transport rather than road congestion. The English word traffic didn't appear out of nowhere. It came from earlier European languages. It entered English through Middle French, which borrowed it from the Italian word traffico, meaning trade, and the verb trafficare, meaning to conduct trade or business. Linguists are not completely certain where the Italian word came from, but some theories suggest roots in Latin words meaning across or exchange, while others point to possible Arabic influences related to distribution or commerce. What is clear is that by the late Middle Ages, variations of this word were already being used across Europe to describe trading activities and the movement of goods between regions. So how did a word for trade start to mean movement in general? The shift happened gradually. Trade almost always involved transportation. Ships crossing seas, wagons traveling roads, and goods constantly being moved. Because movement was such a central part of commerce, the word traffic began to refer not just to trade itself, but to the flow of goods and people along routes. By the 19th century, English speakers were using traffic to describe the collective movement of passengers, freight, and vehicles along railways, canals, and roads. Eventually, the meaning narrowed in everyday speech to refer mainly to road vehicles, though the broader meaning still exists in terms like air traffic, rail traffic, and even internet traffic. The meaning of traffic as we use it today became especially common in the 1800s and early 1900s. Cities were growing rapidly, and new forms of transportation, horse-drawn carriages, streetcars, bicycles, and eventually automobiles, began crowding urban streets. As streets filled with more vehicles and pedestrians, people needed a word to describe this growing flow of movement, and traffic fit naturally because it already referred to the movement of goods and passengers. By the early 20th century, phrases like traffic jam and traffic control started appearing as governments began managing roads more formally, introducing signals, signs, and rules to handle the increasing congestion. The first electric traffic light, installed in Cleveland in 1914, marked an early attempt to control the rising number of vehicles on city streets. As car ownership expanded in the following decades, the word traffic became firmly tied in everyday language to road conditions, congestion, and commuting. One reason the word traffic stuck is that it describes a collective flow rather than individual movement. You don't usually say you are a traffic, you say you are in traffic, meaning you are part of a larger stream of movement. This makes the word useful because it captures the idea of many vehicles moving together through shared spaces. English often extends words in this way, applying them metaphorically to new situations. That's why we also talk about foot traffic in shopping malls or web traffic online, where no roads or vehicles are involved, but the idea of flow remains the same. The word adapted easily because its core meaning, movement and exchange, was broad enough to apply in many contexts. This flexibility allowed the word to stay relevant even as technology and transportation changed over time. It also explains why the term continues to appear in new fields, especially in areas related to networks, logistics, and digital communication. Even today, the word traffic isn't limited to cars and highways. Airports manage air traffic, ports monitor ship traffic, and computer networks measure internet traffic. All of these uses share the same underlying idea: many things moving along organized routes. This consistency shows how the word has evolved without losing its original concept. Whether it's cargo ships in the 1500s, trains in the 1800s, or data packets in the 21st century, traffic still describes the organized flow of movement through a system. The vehicles may have changed, but the meaning has remained connected to motion, exchange, and pathways. This is why the same word can be used in fields as different as aviation, shipping, and technology, without causing confusion. It also shows how language adapts over time, keeping familiar words while allowing their meanings to expand as the world changes. So why is it called traffic? The word goes back centuries and originally referred to trade and the movement of goods. Over time, as cities grew and transportation evolved, its meaning shifted to describe the movement of vehicles on roads, while the older sense of exchange still survives in other uses. In the end, the word has always been about movement and the flow of people or goods from one place to another. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.